Most revolutions do not begin with weapons. They begin with questions. Questions that refuse to disappear. Questions that sit in the human mind for centuries, unsettling generations. What is truth? What is reality? What is freedom? What does it mean to live a good life? Long before laboratories, before psychology, before modern science, there were thinkers who turned thought itself into a battlefield. They did not conquer land. They conquered assumptions. This is not a story about abstract ideas. It is a chronicle of minds that quietly shaped how humanity thinks, often without permission, before laws were written, before governments were structured. Humans still needed meaning. And one of the first minds to disturb complacency was Socrates. Socrates wrote nothing, yet his influence outlived empires. He walked the streets asking questions so uncomfortable that society sentenced him to death. What do you know? What is virtue? Why do you believe what you believe? Socrates introduced a dangerous idea, that certainty is often ignorance in disguise. To this day, education, debate, and critical thinking rest on his method, questioning everything, including oneself. His student, Plato, took thought beyond the visible world. Plato argued that reality itself might be an illusion, shadows on a wall, that truth exists beyond what the senses can perceive. His allegory of the cave changed how humans understand knowledge, ignorance, and enlightenment. Plato suggested something unsettling, that most people defend illusion, because truth is uncomfortable. Every conversation about reality versus perception traces back to Plato's cave. Then came Aristotle, who grounded philosophy in observation. Where Plato reached upward, Aristotle looked around. He categorized knowledge, ethics, biology, logic, and politics. He believed purpose existed in everything, that life had structure. Aristotle shaped how humans reason, classify, and debate. For centuries, his logic defined what it meant to think correctly. Even modern science inherited Aristotle's obsession with causes and systems. As empires rose and fell, philosophy turned inward. Epictetus, a former slave, taught that freedom is not external, it is internal. He believed humans suffer not from events, but from judgments. Control what you can. Accept what you cannot. This idea would later become Stoicism's backbone, shaping warriors, leaders, and ordinary people seeking peace in chaos. Stoicism still whispers today, every time someone chooses calm over reaction. Another Stoic, Marcus Aurelius, ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet wrote like a man afraid of his own weakness. His private reflections were never meant for the public, yet they became a manual for leadership, discipline, and humility. Marcus showed the world something rare. That power does not erase anxiety, it reveals it. Centuries later, philosophy collided with faith. Thomas Aquinas attempted something impossible, reconciling reason with belief. He argued that faith and logic were not enemies, but partners. Aquinas shaped moral philosophy, law, and religious thought across continents. His work influenced how societies judged right and wrong, not emotionally, but systematically. Then came a thinker who shattered comfort entirely. René Descartes doubted everything. Reality, the senses, authority, until he arrived at one conclusion. I think, therefore I am. Descartes turned the mind into the foundation of existence. Modern psychology, neuroscience, and selfhood owe a debt to his radical doubt. After Descartes, the mind became the starting point of truth. But doubt does not end there. David Hume questioned causality itself. He argued that humans assume patterns, but cannot prove necessity. The sun rising tomorrow feels certain. But is it? Hume revealed how much of human knowledge rests on habit, not logic. This insight shook science and philosophy, and quietly humbled human certainty. Then came Immanuel Kant, who tried to repair the damage. Kant argued that the human mind does not merely observe reality, it structures it. Time, space, causality, these are lenses, not truths. Reality, as we know it, is shaped by the mind itself. This idea changed everything. After Kant, humans could no longer separate knowledge from the knower. A philosophical interruption is necessary here. If the mind shapes reality, if perception filters truth, then objectivity becomes fragile, and power enters the conversation. Friedrich Nietzsche arrived like an earthquake. He declared that old values were collapsing, that morality was not divine but human-made. Nietzsche warned that when belief systems die, meaning collapses with them. He spoke of nihilism, power, and the will to create values anew. Nietzsche did not destroy meaning. He exposed its fragility. Modern existential anxiety still echoes his warnings. One philosopher responded by embracing responsibility. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that humans are radically free and condemned to choose. There is no predetermined essence, no script. We define ourselves through action. This freedom terrified people, because with freedom comes responsibility. Existentialism forced humanity to face itself without excuses. Another voice emerged quietly but powerfully. Simone de Beauvoir revealed how society constructs identity, especially gender. She argued that one is not born a role, but becomes one. Her work reshaped feminism, ethics, and social philosophy. De Beauvoir showed that oppression is not always violent. Sometimes it is invisible and normalized. Then came Hannah Arendt, who studied evil not as monstrosity, but as banality. She observed that ordinary people commit atrocities not out of hatred, but obedience. Arendt revealed how systems dissolve moral responsibility. Her work changed political philosophy forever. After Arendt, evil was no longer unthinkable. It was disturbingly human. In the shadows of institutions, Michel Foucault returned. He dissected power, surveillance, and control. Foucault argued that knowledge produces power, and power produces truth. Prisons, hospitals, schools, therapy, none were neutral. They shaped behavior, defined normality, controlled deviation. Foucault exposed the invisible architecture of modern life. Now pause. Notice the pattern. These philosophers did not offer comfort. They offered clarity. And clarity is often disturbing. Philosophers do not tell humanity what to think. They change how thinking itself works. They introduce doubt where certainty once lived, responsibility where comfort existed, awareness where obedience thrived. Their ideas outlive nations, outlast ideologies, outpace time. You may never read their books, yet you argue like them, doubt like them, fear like them, think like them. This has been a chronicle, not of answers, but of questions that refuse to die. And the final question remains, if these minds shaped how humanity thinks, whose ideas are shaping you right now?